There are also
That's
issues.
like a virus.
It is a virus. It's actually putting an element of a virus into the tumor cell to kill it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You said it was a nanoparticle.
Well, it's attached to a nanoparticle. The virus is much smaller than a nanoparticle,
Yeah.
and when it gets to the surface, it injects it into the tumor cell. But that's not the only other way. There are other ways that nanoparticles can kill tumors. I want to talk a little bit about EHS, environmental health and safety. The issue, of course, is that nanomaterials are very new, and we don't really know their effect on the normal human body. So looking at environmental health and safety issues is important. There's the issue of biocompatibility. There are the issues of toxicity during manufacture, after release from manufactured products. I was talking to one of the legal counsels for one of the airline companies, and he said their nightmare scenario is that they have a fire on a plane, everybody gets off safely, but a year or so later, they start dying because of inhaled toxicity from the nanoparticles that were used in the manufacture of the aircraft in terms of wings and structural things, which is why the aircraft companies themselves do not produce any of the nanomaterials going into the planes. They have it produced by other companies so they don't have the liability. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but that's the things the attorneys worry about. And so we have to make sure that the exposure to nanoparticles is safe and they're properly encapsulated and so forth. Here, for example, they were talking about toxic SOx syndrome. Well, it turns out that SOx can be impregnated with nanosilver. The nanosilver is an antibacterial agent which prevents bacteria from growing on the SOx. And that means the SOx won't smell. This is rumored to have a really major problem in gyms, especially in high school gyms. But when you launder them, some of the nanosilver leaches out. And if it gets into the water purification systems, many of which use bacteria to purify water, it can poison the bacteria in the water purification systems. So it's the good and bad of both sides. I said that there are other ways that nanoparticles can be used. There's something called nanoshells. These are minuscule beads coated with gold, and by varying the amount of gold on the bead, you can determine how much light it will absorb, infrared light. And if you inject them into the tumor with antibodies on them, they will home to the tumor. You can then irradiate the tumor through the skin because near-infrared goes through the skin. The cells, the nanoshells will heat up, and the tumor will literally be cooked. Now here's an example. You have the gold nanoshell. The near-infrared goes on. The nanoshell heats up. The nano devices here we're talking about 10 nanometers wide, in contrast to a blood cell, which is about 1,000 nanometers. That's an electron micrograph of what they look like with different densities of gold on them, and that's sort of a cartoon of what they look like. And here's a little movie of how it would appear. So we have the nanoshells, which are released into the bloodstream. They get on the specific tumor cells because they're attracted by antibodies on the surface. They're irradiated with near infrared, and the cell dies.